Welcome, everyone, to the Aligned Abundance Summit. I'm your host, Adrienne Rivera, and today I'm super excited to be here with Amira Irfan. Welcome.
Thank you, Adrienne. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're super excited to have you. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what topic you are here for.
Absolutely. So I'm a business lawyer, blogger, and coach over at aselfcrew.com, where I help entrepreneurs legally protect their online business through my affordable legal templates or working with me one-on-one. And I also share tons of blogging and legal tips to kind of help you become your own boss and, make sure that you're running your online business legally. And the topic today is the 3 legal mistakes that I see entrepreneurs making and how to avoid them.
Beautiful. I love that. That's amazing. Well, I'm excited for this and I'd love to dive right in with you. So, what is the top mistake that you often see entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers making when it comes time to launching their business?
Absolutely. So before we get into this, I'm just going to give my fun little legal disclaimer, and we'll talk about disclaimers too, not just for lawyers, but even as an entrepreneur, coach, or anyone, you should be giving appropriate disclaimers to limit your legal liability for the content that you share with your audience. So my legal disclaimer is that, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. So everything that we're going to share today is just for informational, educational purposes. It doesn't really constitute legal advice. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the number one mistake that I see. The first one I see is people just not having a proper compliant privacy policy on their website. So privacy policy is a law across the board, no matter where you reside. If you're in the US, outside the US, it's legally required to be on your website. And I see so many entrepreneurs just grabbing a free one from online and thinking it's legally enough, but it never is. So that's one of the big mistakes that I see.
And have you ever had a client come to you who has one on free, like a free one that they've used that has gotten into trouble, or there's been certain pieces that have been missing from it? I'd love to hear what those are.
Absolutely. So I've been practicing law for over 10 years, and we've seen so many, in business context, I've seen so many people get sued for privacy violations. Sometimes, it could be something like just not compliant with GDPR, as you may have heard, General Data Protection Regulation law. It's an EU law. It could be also missing important legal provisions under California law, or even I had a client that was, had a website for children, but they didn't have appropriate children policy on their website. So there are so many different things when it comes to the legal stuff that could go wrong that you don't expect, because you're not a lawyer, so you're not expected to know this stuff, right? And nowadays, unfortunately, it's so easy to get sued for privacy violations. I mean, look at Facebook, it's been sued. Look at Google, it's been sued. Look at these big companies, but it's not just the big companies. If you go to the Federal Trade Commission's website, that's an agency that regulates privacy policies across the board. You'll see tons of lawsuits and tons of cases for different reasons.
That's really good to know. So hopefully you guys are taking notes. This is all super good. So can you talk a little bit more about what a privacy policy is and why do we need it and how they can get one for their website?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So privacy policy is basically a legal statement on your website, more like a legal page that you put together in the footer section of your website, informing the visitors of your website that what kind of information you're collecting from them and how are you using that information. So for example, I come to your website, I give you my name, my email address, and now I'm on your email list. I have just given you my personal information. So something like a name, an email address, credit card information. These are all what constitutes a private information that you're collecting from people on a daily basis. So now I have a legal right to know that what are you going to do with that information? Are you going to disclose it to any third parties? How are you using that information? And things like that. So legally, you're required to inform your website visitors that what you're doing with that information. And then, as I mentioned previously, there's so many privacy laws out there, like children's privacy law, California privacy law, the GDPR, and a bunch of other regulations that you have to make sure that you're meeting all those requirements in this legal policy or page. And to answer your question about how you can easily get it done, being a lawyer, practicing for so many years and having seen so many different entrepreneurs getting into legal trouble, I have a privacy policy template that you can easily purchase. It obviously complies with all the different regulations out there. I've done the legwork for you, so you don't have to. And you can always go to my website on aselfgrew.com, and then you can get that policy.
Amazing. Beautiful. And what about people listening that perhaps have a blog? Would you recommend having a privacy policy for that?
So whether you're a blogger or a coach or an online marketer or even a freelancer, it doesn't matter what kind of business that you have online. If you have a website, you have to have a privacy policy. So yes, I'm a blogger myself. I have one. And even if I didn't have a blog on my website and it was just, an e-commerce store or something else, I would still have a privacy policy because, as I mentioned, I'm still collecting information in some shape or form from the people that are visiting my website. So yes, you are required to have one.
I gotcha. And what about a website that has tons of different pages? So let's say that there's on your homepage, on all of your main pages, you have your privacy policy in the footer, but what about an event that you create? Does every single page on every single thing have to have that?
So that's a great question. So if whatever your event that you're doing, if it's related to your website, the key is that you have to link it back to your website's legal page, the privacy policy page in the footer section. So let's say if you're having an event, whoever is coming into your event, if it's a virtual summit or anything, they're basically following the privacy policy on your website. So you don't need to have different privacy policies because your website is the main business. And then everything else affiliated with your site is governed by what's on your website. Does it make sense?
Yes. What about people that have two aspects of their business? Maybe they have two different domain names. Can they use the same privacy policy if they run them under the same LLC? Or would they need to have a DBA, doing business as, for the separate brand name?
So what I recommend is from a legal perspective, if you have two businesses and you have parent LLCs, what you're referring to, so you have one LLC and two businesses. So if you have two businesses and one LLC, two websites, you can use the same policy on both websites, but you would obviously revise certain things like the name of the business, and you should have a DBA to differentiate the two sites, right? But what I recommend as a lawyer is to keep the LLC of each business separate, because what happens is when you have one LLC and two businesses under that, now both businesses are going to be liable if there's ever a lawsuit. Let's say someone sues your LLC, both businesses will be at risk because you had that LLC for both businesses. So if you had separate LLCs, then you would have separated the businesses, and then each business is not going to be liable for the debts and losses of the other business. I hope it was clear enough, because I know this stuff can get a little confusing. Does it make sense?
That does make sense. Yes. Thank you for that. So what is the second biggest legal mistake that you often see entrepreneurs making?
So the second mistake, as I mentioned in the beginning, when I gave my legal disclaimer, is not giving a disclaimer on their website. So it doesn't matter what your niche is. You could be in the medical niche, but I'm sure you've seen medical health disclaimers on websites. I'm sure you've seen finance disclaimers, right? If someone is talking about personal finance or tips on how to save money, where to invest, things like that, you want to give appropriate disclaimers, because the purpose of the disclaimer on your website is to let the people know and put them on notice that whatever I'm publishing, don't take it as advice. Don't take it like finance advice, legal advice, medical advice, health advice, and then come after me later on for damages. Because the reality is it's so easy to sue these days, right? Even if I wasn't a lawyer, I still know that it is very easy to get sued, because my own dad got sued for $90,000, which is why I became a lawyer in the first place. But my point is that it was a very small little mistake that ended up costing us $90,000. So my point is that it's so easy to get sued. You just want to put all these things in place to kind of safeguard your business. And also, if tomorrow, God forbid, anything does go south, you have that disclaimer at least as an affirmative defense in court to be able to say that, hey, look, I had all this legal jargon on my website, so I'm not the one completely at fault here. Look, I did my part, and so disclaimer will just help limit that legal liability.
And what about for like purposes of like memberships? Like let's say someone goes into a membership site. Does that need to be in the privacy policy, the terms and conditions for like saying, hey, you will be billed within 30 days on this day that you sign up until you cancel, 30 days
Right.
advance notice to cancel? Like, where does that need to be spelled out?
So for a membership site, you need a proper membership agreement. So what it's called a membership agreement, it's called membership terms and conditions. Basically, exactly what you just said. You need to clearly define those terms before someone makes a purchase from you. So let's say at the checkout page, I'm about to now, subscribe to your membership, and I need to be able to review those terms before I go ahead and make that purchase. Because if tomorrow you want to change something, I need to know as a customer what did I just sign up for. So that's why and also I could ask for a refund. You need to be protected too, as as the owner. That's why the membership agreement kind of outlines what your membership is about, what are the rules, what's the recurring payment going to look like, how many times you're going to bill them, what's the termination policy, things like that. And for something like that, I also have a template, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, they do have membership websites, even free ones and paid ones. So even a free one should have those terms and conditions. And if you ever need one, you can always get it from my website.
Beautiful. And so can you share a little bit more about what that would look like? Is that just like a tick box that they check that says,
Yes.
I've read the terms? It's not like a huge long contract that they have to like give their signature to?
No. It's as long as so you do need to post those terms somewhere, whichever platform that you're using. Either you create a page on your site, or I don't know what checkout service that you use, but you just need to be able to give them those terms so they can review them. If nobody ever will, but at least you need to be able to give them the opportunity to review. And like you said, all they got to do is just check that box and click to accept. So you don't need to send them electronically for signature or anything. Make it very automated. That's totally okay, as long as you have some sort of a consent from them, like a checkbox, as we talked about, and that's good enough. I mean, that's what I do too. So when someone makes a purchase from me, right at the checkout, I have my terms and conditions on my website, and I just literally say that by purchasing, you agree to our website terms here, and then they click on it and they can see the whole, the terms and conditions, and then they have to click, and then they get to the payment section.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And what is the third biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs making when it comes to legal things?
So yeah, this goes right into what we just talked about, kind of like terms and conditions, but we talked about specifically for membership sites just now. But just for your own website also, you need terms and conditions, because your website terms and conditions, they kind of let people know what your rules, what are your website rules, what they can do, cannot do with your content. For example, there's a lot of copycats out there, right? So you want to be able to protect your intellectual property. Even if it's a freebie that you're offering, you don't want someone copying that stuff. So your terms and conditions on your website kind of like let people know that what they can and cannot do with your content. And then also, in the event that there is a dispute, what a lot of people don't think about is, well, if I live in Florida, for example, and you live, where do you live?
I live in Reno, Nevada.
Nevada. Okay. So if we have knock on wood, but if you have a dispute, where would you like to resolve, in Florida or in your home state?
Nevada.
Exactly. So that's why terms and conditions are so important, because they have that governing law provision in there. So that's why in your terms and conditions, you're going to put obviously Nevada. I'm obviously going to put Florida. So that's something that you need to spell it out in your terms and conditions. So this way, if there's ever kind of any dispute down the road, you know that your terms and conditions would come into play.
That makes a lot of sense. So is there anything that coaches can write themselves when it comes to legal disclaimers, terms and conditions, or do you recommend that just to make sure that everything is good to go, that they go through a lawyer?
Yeah, so you have two options, right? Like you can pay thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer and do it for you, which honestly we both know is very costly because you're going to go to a lawyer, you're going to pay anywhere from $350 to $500 an hour. Or you could purchase templates from a lawyer who's already written them, someone like me or anyone else. But as long as it's written by a lawyer, then you can have that peace of mind and security knowing that, hey, these are legit. Someone who's well versed in the law has written them. So this way, you're not grabbing like a template on your own from online, a free one that doesn't fully protect you, that's not going to hold up in court. And also, you don't have to sit there, waste countless of hours trying to piece this stuff together on your own, which, let's face it, we're all busy. No one has time to sit there and research the legal stuff and try to put together a template or a document on their own, so that's why I have my legal store. And if you ever need help, you can just purchase these templates. And I've helped more than 30,000 entrepreneurs already with my templates and services. So that's always an option available.
Amazing. Can you share a little bit more about your offerings and your bundles that you have? That way anyone listening can pick it up and they know where to find you.
Absolutely. So if you just go to my website, aselfgrew.com, there's like a free legal guide that walks you through, the 3 essential legal documents that you should have on your website. We talked a little bit about them, like privacy policy, disclaimer, terms and conditions, but that's just like the top of the thing, right? Like you need to really focus on the other stuff too. Like, for example, if you're a coach, you're going to need a coaching agreement. If you are offering any kind of like freelance work, like virtual assistant, or you have your own freelance agency or network or whatever, you're gonna, need a freelance contract for that. Or if you're working with brands, let's say, sponsorships, like brands are paying you to produce content for them or post on Instagram or create videos, you're going to need a sponsorship agreement in place. If they don't have one, a lot of my customers purchase from me and then they go to the brand and then they feel more safe that way because at least it's a contract that protects them, not the brand. So there's so many different kinds of legal contracts and templates and documents that you're going to need based on what you're doing. And you can always take a quiz on the legal store page of my website to see, which document you need for what. I have tons of helpful blog posts as well for free that you can check out. And as always, you can always even join my Facebook group and reach me directly. And I'm always available to help out. Oh, and then there's a free guide that I just talked about, which you can access from my site too.
Beautiful. Thank you. And are there any other tips that you want to share for people watching?
So I can only speak from my experience and my clients' experiences. I would say that it's a small cost to pay when you're trying to protect your business, because I know a lot of people cut corners when it comes to the legal side of their business, and it's easy to forget about it because as an entrepreneur, there's always so much to do. And I know myself because I have an online business too. So there's so many things to take care of. But when it comes to the legal stuff, my biggest recommendation would be not to neglect it, because you never know when something can go south, even if it's a simple dispute with a customer or someone that you're working with. Things can go really south easily. And if you don't have proper legal documents and contracts in place, it can be very detrimental to you and your business. And again, speaking from my own dad's lawsuit and my own experiences working with clients for over 10 years, I can tell you that there are a lot of mistakes that we make that we could have avoided. So that's why we had this, meeting today, so that I could kind of help you out, and even a little bit, then I know I've done my job,
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And you have an awesome free gift for us, the free legal guide. It'll be linked right below this video. Is there anything else that you want to mention about that?
Yeah, so the free legal guide is very easy to go through. It's a simple guide that's going to walk you through what we just talked about, the different legal templates that you should have, pages that you should have, and why you should have them on your site. And then it's also going to put you in access to me, and my Facebook group, so you can easily reach me. And if you want to ever work one-on-one, it's going to have all the information to work with me if you need to.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, and make sure anyone listening, you grab that below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.